this war has continued, he has lost a lot of MAGA allies. And then this week, when he threatened to kind of eliminate a civilization, which is something no president has ever done before, not language that should be used by any leader in the United States of either political party, a bunch of MAGAites decided that maybe they'd had enough. And that is quite telling.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I am sick of this. I'm sick of it. Can't he just behave like a normal human? I mean, honestly, like the president, 380, yes, shut up. Shut up about that.
How do we 25th Amendment is asked?
The problem is to get the 25th Amendment, it's harder than impeachment. You have to get 2/3 of the House and 2/3 of the Senate.
So what do we do?
Tackle Trump and let him pretend he's president and publicly report that he's going through a health issue and Vance take over.
Those people who are in direct contact with the president need to say, no, I'll resign.
You don't threaten to wipe out an entire civilization. We're talking about civilians. His negotiation tactic is to kill an entire country full of civilians, men, women, and children. An American president so that the Strait of Hormuz will be opened. It's just wrong. He can't be a dignified, strong leader without threatening a bunch of war crimes.
Didn't he answer that question when he said the blood was coming out of all of your body? Hi again, everybody. It's now 5 o'clock in New York. Any homeowner will tell you this. Water damage is always worse than you think it is when the water is dripping out of your ceiling. Sure, that is horrifying, and what you can see is awful and traumatic. But it's the lasting stuff, the deeper stuff, the stuff under the surface. Behind the drywall, down into the foundation, the mold, the smell, the rot. So often it is orders of magnitude worse. Should be easy enough for a former real estate developer to understand that theory. There's a lion's share of Donald Trump's most high-profile political supporters are now in unprecedented fashion seeking to separate themselves, not just from his policies and his unpopular war and his unpopular handling of the Epstein files, but from the man himself, from his character, from his whatever they think his moral fibers were made of before they turned on him. We'll show you first the latest from we showed you the first from former Fox anchor Megyn Kelly. But you have to understand, we watch this so you don't have to. And this isn't some sort of surface level flip-flop and damage you can just monitor by flipping through these things.
You got to say the deal sounds very much like surrender on our part, which I'm in favor of. I mean, great. This needed to end. Ugly or any other way. It needed to end. It was folly to begin with. It was folly throughout. It remains folly. The young person coalition that Charlie Kirk delivered to the president is gone. They've abandoned Donald Trump. The working class, Piers. The latest poll that just came out showed he's 2 points underwater with the working class. That's been Trump's base from the beginning. They were the unshakable foundation that got him elected over and over. And they're gone. They're very angry.
In terms of political temperature checks, those sorts of comments are notable. So is the fact that Megyn Kelly has also joked in recent days that, quote, Trump could drop a nuke and she'd still vote Republican over Democrat. So there's that. But all the same, it highlights a degree of vast, unprecedented, not since he descended the golden escalator, daylight. Not just between Trump and his media cheerleaders like Megyn Kelly, but now between Trump and, as Megyn Kelly points out, actual unshakable blocks of MAGA voters. The New York Times used AI to analyze more than 40,000 comments to Donald Trump posts on his own social media platform and reported to have engaged unease and anger bubbling up in that echo chamber, showing the depths of the discontent over the war. Quote, one user who indicated on their profile page that they supported President Trump 100% wrote that Trump had demonstrated a lust for blood. A Trump-loving conservative wrote that such threats would destroy the president's legacy. Quote, I'm honestly heartbroken, the user added. While social media sites tend to have a large number of bot accounts, the New York Times highlighted only examples showing no obvious signs of bot activity. Only a quarter of the comments were supportive, including posts praising Trump's backbone and asking him to finish the job. And all of that is just on the question of Iran, which has been going on for 40 days. Before that, there was the Epstein controversy, which Melania just brought back into the center ring. It is another issue over which MAGA and MAGA cheerleaders have expressed frustration with Donald Trump and his administration. But again, thanks to Melania Trump, for reasons about 2.5 hours since they happened, are still not clear. In case you missed those comments, Melania Trump, in head-scratching fashion, went to the podium after calling for the pool to assemble to discuss what she called smears having to do with her and Jeffrey Epstein, despite the fact that no one knows what those smears are. She also called on Congress to continue investigating the men in a matter her husband has repeatedly called a, quote, hoax. Before we begin the hour with the president of Media Matters for America, Angelo Carasone. Also joining us, Charlie Sykes. He's the author of the newsletter To the Contrary. And Miles Taylor is still with us. Angelo, I'm dying to know what all of you think the Melania Trump statement was about. But on this larger portrait of what Megyn Kelly describes, what Ann Coulter describes in the last block conversation Miles and I just did, the things that figures on the left and in the mainstream media have been saying for 9 years now, that the corruption is out front and in front of everybody, that the violations of norms are now policy, that the conduct seems, to quote Marjorie Taylor Greene, quote, insane, and that no one can keep straight in satire or in straight political journalism which crisis is distracting from which.
Yeah, I think a couple of things. One, the effects of all of these are cumulative. I think that sometimes people are looking for a moment where, they make this critique and then something suddenly changes. And as you noted in the intro, even though they are hitting Trump and they are criticizing Trump, they are still careful to say, but I would probably still vote for him, right? They're not willing to go that far. They're not, and that's okay for now. What's significant about this, though, the so what, is that because the effects are cumulative, it's not just that they are sort of wearing away, right? It started with policy critiques. That's where it's been for a while. And as you noted, it's starting to get more personal. They're starting to acknowledge that there's something at the core here that's wrong. There's issues of judgment. There's issue of character. That's all brand new, right? That's what happens when the effects are cumulative. So that's one piece. It starts to tear down the veneer. And for a figure like Trump, not himself, he relies a lot on kayfabe. He's a character. He's a character. That's why he gets away with so much, because he's a character in this larger story, which means he's a media creature. So not only if you tear away and you start to strip away at some of that storyline, it makes it harder for people to carry water for him. But when they are critiquing him, even if they're not willing to go so far to say they would change their vote, they're not carrying water. They're
people like that who are really separating from the president. The president put out a pretty lengthy social media post about this yesterday, and I'm just going to read part of it to you. You have it there on the screen. Pardon me, my allergies. Tucker Carlson, who couldn't even finish college, he was a broken man when he got fired from Fox, and he's never been the same. Perhaps he should see a good psychiatrist. Narrator's note, I should tell you. Tucker Carlson went to the White House as recently as February 23rd, 5 days before the war began. Okay, Megyn Kelly, who nastily asked me the now famous only Rosie O'Donnell question. Narrator's note, she campaigned with Trump in November of 2024. Candace Owens, who accuses the highly respected First Lady of France of being a man, and she is not. She interviewed the president in 2021 at Mar-a-Lago. Or bankrupt Alex Jones, who says some of the dumbest things and lost his entire fortune, as he should have, for his horrendous attack on the families of Sandy Hook shooting victims, ridiculously claiming it was a hoax. And final narrator's note, Trump appeared on Alex Jones' show in December of 2015. It was a little while ago, but he said to him, "Your reputation is amazing."
It's been pretty remarkable to see the influencer class, the kind of independent media types, including some of the ones that we just saw there, split with Trump over the war in ways that we haven't necessarily seen the opinion hosts on a Fox News or conservative media traditional broadcast. And what I did is I actually looked at the Spotify charts to see the top podcasts.
And we're going to put that up because it's fascinating.
It's very interesting because the top 14 podcasts on Spotify 6 of those podcasts, these are not all politics podcasts, but 6 of those people happen to be people who have aligned with Trump in one way or another or endorsed him in the 2024 campaign, but have split with him at least on the war, if not on other issues. So that creates this kind of unusual and unprecedented dynamic where people who are subscribing to these shows and hearing them, who may be more casual voters, maybe not, politics watchers intensely, are getting some very skeptical takes on these issues in ways that they may not have otherwise before. And so I'm going to be really interested to see how this might play out in the election. I don't know if we know exactly how something like this plays, but it is very one-sided right now.
So let's be honest for a second. If politicals had a normal behavior, setting someone unplugged, it's a long time ago. Watching this whole situation feels like serious leadership and more like a reality show. Even long-time mega supports are starting to sound like they just watched the season finale and didn't like the ending. That shift alone tells you something deeper is going on, because when your most loyal crowd start raising eyebrows instead of cheering, that's not a small crack. That's pressure building under the surface. Here's what I take: a strong stance leadership built on fear and extreme rhetoric is not strength. It's instability dressed up as confidence. You don't prove power by taking about wiping on entire nation. You prove it by avoiding that outcomes altogether. What we are seeing now is grow disconnected between the and image that was sold and the very people are experiencing. And even with mega circles, that realization is slowly creeping in. Not loudly, not all at once, but enough to notice. It's like people are starting to question whether they signed up for strategy or just chose with a microphone. If you really break it down, this is not about one speech and one controversy, it's the accumulation effect. The war rhetoric, the economic pressure, the Epstein discussions, all of it stakes up. At first, supporters defend politics decision, then they start questioning tactics, and eventually they start questions the person that where things gets serious because one mega supporter moved from his side to I'm not sure anymore. So this is the situation right now.